I just can't get away from a good time.
Hey, Cruise team, welcome back. It's Brad. I'm your host on Coach Cruise, and today we have another special segment. And I think that's why some of you have subscribed to Coach Cruise, is because we don't give you the traditional cruise type topics. We give you some different stuff that you might not have seen anywhere else. And today is just one of those segments once again. And we are going to have a special guest for the first time on the Coach Cruise channel. Now, you've seen me on cruise ships talk to guests, but we're going to interview across the country. We have a young lady by the name of Lawren Jackson, who is a professional health coach. And I must say that she is quite the photographer as well. She became a member of the Coach Cruise Facebook page, and I was very intrigued by 10 tips that she gave for staying at your ideal weight while on a cruise. Now, I went through those 10 tips, and I must say that I did not, I guess you could say, succeed on every one of her tips, but I do agree, and I do try to practice many of the tips that she suggested. And I do believe that you can thoroughly enjoy your cruise, enjoy amazing food, drinks, everything else like that, and still come back and feel relatively satisfied with your state of health and your weight when you get on the scale when you get home from that cruise, right? That's always the big fear. So we're going to go over those tips with Lawren, and I am happy to introduce you to her right now. Before I do that, though, I wanted to show you a few pictures. One I pulled right off of her Facebook page, a before and after picture, which she employed some of these tips herself to get into her cruise shape weight. And she was very proud to announce that she got back on the scale after the cruise, and despite enjoying the cruise thoroughly, the food and everything else, she weighed the same when she got back. So very interested to find out how she did that, and we're going to hear from her right now. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Lawren Jackson.
Well, thank you so much for introducing me, Brad. That's so kind of you. So many kind words in that introduction. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on and share a little bit about my passion for health. I wish I had known about this channel before I went on that cruise last week, which was amazing. We had great weather and just so many fantastic people on board. I really did thoroughly enjoy my cruise, and so these tips that I'm giving you are really to maximize and get the most out of your vacation, not to make you feel like you're depriving yourself in any way. My goal is was this past week to get the most out of it and help myself feel the best throughout the whole trip, and so that I could actually still continue to feel good when I got back home too, so that I didn't have that crash of like, oh, now it's time to repair the damage. But before we get into that, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. My name is Lawren Jackson. I'm from Manassas, Virginia. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4, and this trip that we booked, this cruise, was actually to celebrate my 40th birthday. So that gives you a little insight into me. I have not always been passionate about health. In fact, as recently as the beginning of the pandemic, I was I was classified as being obese. And so, well, I would attribute that to 3 different things. It was a combination of a lot of quarantine baking, A lot of sitting on the sofa and watching, shows end to end. And then number 3, not putting on real pants for long periods of time. So you never really, saw what damage was accumulating there. And so I found a system that really worked for me, and not here to sell you anything today. I just really love passing along helpful tips that can really help anybody. So feel free. I am a certified health coach now, and would be happy to pass that along, more of my services along to you. But today I'm just giving you some free tips.
That's all really great, Lauren. And the thing I like about that is that you've seen both sides. As you mentioned, you were classified as obese. So you know the struggle, but you're also in a condition where you're fit now, and you have all these tools and tips and resources that you know how to maintain your weight and stay healthy. And that's so important. The thing I try to convey, and the reason I try to stay healthy myself, is you want to live to a long, an old age where you can still enjoy yourself late into, however old you end up being. If that's your 80s, your 90s, whatever, you want to be in a position where you can move around freely and you still have your wits about you and everything else like that. And being healthy is one way that's definitely going to help you get there. So with that being said, what are our first tips?
Okay, let's just jump right in then. I have 10 tips for you today, and I may even throw a couple bonus tips here and there. The first tip that I would love to give you is drinking your water, okay? Drinking your water is going to make you feel so much better through the entire trip. It's going to help flush out some of that extra sodium from visiting the buffet. It's going to help you stay regular in the bathroom, which can be a concern, especially when you're traveling. And that's going to just make you feel not as, good through the whole trip if you're not able to keep regular trips to the bathroom. Also to help reduce inflammation. I don't know about you guys, but when I used to travel, my rings would be so tight, like I couldn't even get them off sometimes. And right now they're spinning like crazy. Like I almost am worried about that I'm going to lose them. And I just got back this past weekend from my cruise. So that I feel like really helped to keep the inflammation down, especially, with traveling and all of that. That can be a big problem. So my goal usually is about 80 to 100 ounces, especially if it's hotter outside. You may even want it more than that. So if you're just always walking around with water in your hand, going up to the Lido deck, that totally is always something that's available to you. And I like a lot of ice too. So having that readily available is just so handy. Number 2, this one's going to be a little touchier, and I know Brad's going to address this. I skipped the alcohol and soda package. This saves you a lot of money if you do this. I know for me, I'm very price conscious. And so for me, if I were to purchase something like a soda package, I would feel like I needed to get my money's worth out of it. And so I would just be continually just always trying to get a refill. Also, I feel like if you are having that alcohol or whatever, that's going to probably make it so that you're going to make poorer choices, just life choices maybe, but also poorer food choices. So you might not be able to make those calculated decisions of like, do I really need this, or am I just having this? It's just, I felt like that was something that it wasn't hard for me to give up, since I don't actually drink anyway. And soda doesn't have as much of an appeal to me now that I know what's in it. That's part of the catch-22 of being a health coach. You find out all the things that you used to enjoy that are just so terrible for you. So those are my first 2 tips.
Okay, Lauren, here we go. So I can do the water. I think the cruise team can do the water, but a lot of us cruise team, we're not going to be able to do number 2. That is the alcohol. But let's go back to the water, because I think that's something that everybody can do. Even if we can't follow every one of your tips to the T, I know that water is something that everybody can do for all the reasons that you mentioned. One of the things that I like to do after, let's say, a full day of failing by not doing number 2, I might need to go to the gym to work out, to sweat some of that off, and then I go to, say, the sauna or the steam room, and I take one of those really big bottles of water and I drink the whole thing, and I just sweat out a lot of it. And as you said, it helps cleanse the body. It makes you feel a lot better, and you're in great shape, right? Now, it is going to be very difficult, and I know a lot of people that enjoy cruising enjoy drinking, right? A lot of us enjoy drinking, and for me, one of my favorites is the Alchemy Bar. I'm a regular visitor there when I'm on Carnival cruise ships, and meet a lot of great people there, and we have a lot of fun. So that's probably not going to happen, but I know that Lawren is not telling you have to do this. And in fact, if you follow a lot of these tips, you're going to find that you're in a lot better position when you get off the cruise. You're probably going to have a more enjoyable cruise, honestly, and you'll definitely have a more enjoyable visit to the scale when you eventually get on it after that cruise. So let's go on to the next tips.
Yes, and I totally get what you're saying there. For some people, that's a non-negotiable part of your vacation. And so that's how I would love for you to just take this whole list and say, you know what, I may not do all of these things, but even if I'm just doing a couple of them, that's going to really help me feel my best throughout my whole vacation. So number 3, let's jump back in, is to take the steps as much as possible. All right, you guys know they have stairs conveniently located all along the ship, and it's sometimes faster even to not have to wait for the elevator, and you can just take the steps yourself. That burns calories just getting to the buffet. So that makes you feel a little bit better about earning that scoop of pudding or whatever it is that you're getting up there. Also, it might free up the elevator for someone else who really needs it more. Actually, our room was down on the 2nd floor. And so we, in order to get to the 9th floor, that's quite a few flights of stairs. And we did that trip many times a day. So definitely, I felt so much stronger by the end of the week. Not really that accustomed to doing stairs, but by the end of the week I was. So that was awesome. Number 4, I'll just lump the next couple ones together here because they're all about getting active. Utilize that ship gym. For me, I don't have a gym membership, and so having access to some of those really cool machines was really fun, and getting to work out with my husband is something I don't really usually get to do. And so it was just really fun to have that time that we could spend together. It was really fun to be able to work out together and do some of the circuits. Use that treadmill. It just overlooks the front of the ship there and makes it so that you just feel like you're running on water. It's really fun. I had a goal of just beating my step count every day, and so that made it so that I was a little less likely to just sit around. If I had a couple of free minutes, I was probably up around walking around the track, or just walking around, people watching, which is really fun to do on the cruise too. Number 5 is exploring the ports on foot. So we, at Cozumel, actually, we hired a taxi driver. He took us all around to different spots, but he said, you get out, you just explore, and I'll be here when you get back. And that was a really cool way to see around the whole island, and also get active. We explored along the beaches, a bunch of different beaches. All around it was just really beautiful, and got to take some nice pictures too, like Brad mentioned. And then at Progresso, we just walked all around the different markets. It was a pretty hot day, and so you want to make sure you stay hydrated, but yeah, get those steps in, wear comfortable shoes, make sure that you're doing what you can handle. But yeah, just getting active is a great way to offset some of those calories that you're getting back at the ship. And yeah.
Okay, so let me just say I completely agree with you, Lawren, on tips 3, 4, and 5. 1, going to the gym. That's something, especially on sea days. I will admit that on port days, it's a challenge because often ports you're getting in early in the morning. So if you get up and you want to get a bite to eat, or grab some food or whatever on your way out, it's going to make it difficult unless you get up really early to work out. But on sea days, which there's typically 2 to 3 sea days on just about every cruise, you can definitely get up and get in the gym and get a nice workout in. like I said, if you had a long night before that maybe involved a lot of drinking or whatever, it gives you an opportunity to really load your body up with the water, and then, like I say, take advantage of the sauna or the steam room and sweat a lot of those bad toxins out, and it's going to cleanse your body, make you feel a whole lot better. And then the steps, walking around the ship. I know, as Lawren mentioned, you have the track there, but I mean, you literally can walk all over the ship. And that's the thing that I would like to add is when I took some of my first cruises, what I would find is sometimes in the last day or the second to last day, I'd be walking around and I'd be like, oh my God, look at this, you know, and we're getting off tomorrow, and this was here this whole time and we didn't even know about it. So, when you get to doing some exercise and you want to, walk around the ship or whatever, it's a great way. Just walk all over the place. Walk through the hallways, walk to the front of the ship, go see some of those, well, they call them secret. They're not secret decks. I love when the cruise creators like to call them secret. They're not secret. You walk to the front of the ship, there's 2 doors on each side. You go out them, and then you have this big open balcony area that's available to you. And there's usually on most ships, like 3 or 4 of them. So you can go out, you can go to the front of the ship, and there's hardly anybody ever on them. You've heard me talk about them in other videos. You can find those. Like I said, sometimes, everybody knows where the Lido is, obviously. That's where the buffet and everything else, that's where all your main meeting points are, and the pools and everything else like that. But sometimes there's 2 or 3 levels above the Lido deck with hidden little gems. Sometimes it's a sports court, or sometimes it's miniature golf or something like that you might otherwise miss if you don't go up those stairs and look around. So take the time to look around. Sometimes you can find a couple hidden jacuzzis or something like that, an extra level of the Serenity deck. So there's a lot to look for when you're going. And Lawren also mentioned the ports. Now, she had mentioned, walking around. And for those of you, especially if you like shopping and exotic ports and everything, there's going to be an abundance of shopping and, beautiful scenery and different ports. But one thing that I would also suggest, it's not going to take up a lot of space in your suitcase, and technically you don't even need it if you book an excursion. But if you get a mask and a snorkel, if you're going to the Caribbean, chances are wherever you're going is going to have beautiful crystal clear waters, and you're going to be able to possibly just go right from shore at a local beach and see some fish. Or more than likely, if you do book an excursion like a catamaran or something like that, they're going to take you to some unbelievable snorkeling spots, and you're going to see just some absolutely beautiful fish. And in the midst of doing all this snorkeling, you're going to be burning a lot of calories. And that's going to allow you to enjoy that extra drink later on, or maybe that extra dessert or something like that, because you'll have burned those calories to have earned that extra drink or dessert. So that's all I have to say. So Lawren, what are our next tips?
Yeah, I really agree with those suggestions too, Brad. That's awesome. Okay, number 6, I would say it's a good idea to plan to eat in the dining room at least a couple of times. I know sometimes you might want the freedom to make your own choices or whatever, but eating in the dining room, at least some of the nights, does really space out your meal nicely. It makes it so that you're more likely to limit yourself to maybe one selection from each category. I know that this is an additional cruise tip for not from the health coach side of me. They will let you order additional entrees at the dining room too. But I actually found that I was more likely to make an informed decision if I just ordered everything straight up at the beginning of the dining room experience. I would be more likely to pick something like lean fish or something like that, and maybe even skip the dessert if I'd make that decision right at the beginning before I see everybody else around me, eating it. It's easier to make that decision. There were plenty of nights that I did choose to indulge in the desserts, and I didn't feel the least bit guilty about that either. And also, it keeps it so that you're less likely to keep going back for more. Like at the buffet, you can totally fill your plate 2 or 3 times before that signal to your brain is sent saying, okay, we're done. Like, why are you still eating? So in the dining room, the meal is spaced out a little bit more so that that signal is sent and you're like completely satisfied by the end. Number 7 is starting your day off with protein. This is something that I've really learned in my program that I do with my clients. We start off your day with protein early, so within an hour of waking up, and I really recommend that for waking up your body. I used to do a lot of like intermittent fasting and even extended fasting, and for me, I found that really slowed down my metabolism, and then revving it up with getting that protein in early in the day, it's really been an amazing game changer for me. Also, I didn't really talk about this before, but I feel like that was a huge part of why I didn't gain weight on the trip also. Normally, before I was a health coach, I would crash diet. I would do some kind of crazy restrictive diet in order to lead up to whatever trip I was taking, in order to look good for maybe the first 2 days in pictures, and then I would bloat up like crazy because all of that restriction led to my metabolism crashing and being just leading to my body going completely into storage mode. Like, oh, we're getting food again, we must retain all of it. So my program leading up to the cruise, I feel like was just as important as my choices that I made on the cruise, which I ate 6 small meals a day, a lot of protein-based food leading up to that, and that just kept my metabolism really revved up and ready for anything. So I would recommend like the omelet station. That's usually that's open fairly early in the day. You can hit that up, and that was usually I was up in the Lido deck before my husband was, because he would prefer to sleep in a little bit, but that was fine. I just got some extra steps in, got my coffee, got my omelet or some eggs and sausage or something like that, got my day started. And yeah, those are a couple of tips about like food choices.
Lawren, great tips once again, and let's take these one by one, because the great thing about your tips is I know we're talking about on a cruise, but so many of these tips can be applied to your daily life. And let's talk about sleep first, okay? So you get home from work late or whatever, and you want to enjoy yourself a little bit, so you find Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, and you find that series you've been watching, and it gets good, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're like way past your bedtime, and you're like, oh my God, I'm only going to get X number of hours of sleep, and well, there you go. So on a cruise ship, obviously, it's very easy to do that as well, as you pointed out, comedy shows, late night theater shows, or just out fun, having fun with friends you just met, or friends that you came along with, drinking, something along those lines. So you do need to make a point to get your sleep, and even if that means you're taking a nap in between, lunch and dinner, so that you can stay up a little bit later. I agree with that, completely. And I know in my weight loss struggle, the times that I've had a set schedule and I made a point to get to bed a little bit earlier, the weight came off faster. So 100% agree with you getting the sleep that you need to take care of your weight, right? Now the next thing, well, let's skip to the last thing, tip 10, because to be honest, what was tip 9? I forget what tip 9 was. I guess I'm gonna delete it.
Okay, number 8, get enough sleep. Try to get enough sleep if you can. It really can be hard to make that choice when you're on vacation. You can just be like, oh, I want to watch all the comedians. I want to go to every show. I don't want to miss anything. But make sure that you're making your sleep a priority, because this really will make it so that your body doesn't go into a stressed state where it wants to hold on to more food. I mean, you know your priorities, so whatever is important to you, make sure that you get the most out of your vacation, but also don't feel like you just have to stay up in order to get the most out of it. There's fun stuff that happens in the morning too. So if you prioritize getting to sleep, and then you'll be ready for the next day and all energized for that day at sea or the visit to a port. Also, another tip, this will help you out if you do have a lot of like spring breakers on your ship that do party all night and are up and down the hallways making a racket. You can ask your concierge, I can't remember the actual name, for like a little fan for some white noise, and that is a really handy tip for helping you be able to sleep through some of that noise. Also earplugs, like you can't control everybody around you, so it may be helpful to go ahead and bring some earplugs. All right, number 9, do you know the law of diminishing returns? This is something that I really like to keep in mind when I'm at home and when I'm on a cruise ship, especially at the cruise ship though. It states that the maximum reward occurs within the first bite of whatever you are enjoying. Okay, so this is really helpful, especially when you have a whole vast array of like desserts and amazing food on the ship. You don't have to have a full serving of each one in order to be able to enjoy it. In fact, I would recommend absolutely taste everything that you want to taste, because you actually get the maximum enjoyment out of that very first bite. So if you get a little taste of everything, and the buffet makes it super easy to do this, feel free to taste it. It's fine. And then if you feel like there's something that's absolutely worth going back for more, have some more. Like, you're on vacation, you deserve to enjoy this guilt-free. But if you have a full serving of absolutely all of the things, I mean, maybe you don't need that. All right, let's finish out with number 10. Did you know, this is sort of a bonus tip, don't eat it just because it's there. Did you know you don't have to get an ice cream cone every single time you pass the soft serve machine? I know, my husband didn't know this either. He got one every single time. He gained a couple of pounds on the trip. It came back off very quickly. And that's actually another little tip that I have. Don't weigh in right when you get home from vacation. What I would recommend is getting back to your normal routine of eating, which is hopefully not continuing to indulge in the same way that you did on the ship, and hydrate like crazy to get any residual sodium water weight off. And I would weigh in maybe 48 to 72 hours after you're back from your trip, and that'll help with the shock value of seeing the damage from whatever you did on the trip. Maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised. Let me know which tips you would feel like that you are gonna be able to utilize on your next vacation or on your next cruise.
All right, Lawren. So once again, I agree completely. Let's start off with the sleep, because, that's something that can apply to daily life, obviously not just on a cruise. And, one thing, for example, and I think this would apply to many people, is, especially with Netflix and Amazon Prime and all those movie stations, things like that being so popular, or maybe even if it's a game being played on the West Coast and you're on the East Coast and you stay up and you want to watch it because your favorite team's playing that West Coast team, right? You can end up staying up a lot later than you normally would, and all of a sudden you're depriving your body of sleep, and then you got to go to work in the morning. And if you do that too many times in a row or too consistently, it's definitely going to affect weight, and it's going to be easier to pack on those pounds. I know when I've had my most success losing weight, it's been a combination of eating healthy, obviously exercise, and getting good sleep. So, that's an absolute great tip. One thing I will say, on a cruise, you pointed out the comedy. If comedy is something you really enjoy, certainly don't skip the comedy, but do try to, make up for that sleep, and maybe that would result in taking a nap, sometime after lunch before dinner, and that nap allows you to get that little bit of extra sleep so you can go to the comedy show later, right? Okay, now the next tip that you have is one that I have not heard of, and I'm very intrigued by, and I'm going to pay attention the next time I have one of those delicious desserts I love so much. But that first bite, mentality, where the first bite, and then after that, it's a diminishing return. It doesn't taste quite as good, or you don't get as much out of it as each subsequent bite. I think that's what you're trying to imply. And I'm really going to pay attention to that because I want to see, honestly, if that's true, because I'd never thought about it, but it does make sense. And I think that's one out there that, cruise team, hey, give that a shot, see what you think, if that works, if that helps. And that may prevent you from eating a lot of extra calories, but still give you the satisfaction of enjoying all those things that we like to eat, right? And then the final thing was, just because it's there, don't feel like you have to eat it, right? And Lawren used the example of her husband not being able to resist the temptation of getting an ice cream cone every time he walked by the soft serve machine. And that could be, various things too, like I often, let's be honest, every time I get the Cheers package, right? So, you do, and I know we talk about this, those of us that get the Cheers package, we talk about it a lot, like, well, you got to get at least 5 to break even. And so, if you're going to take it easy one day, you do have that mentality like, well, I got to at least break even, I got to at least get my money, what the daily cost would add up to. And you do one of those things, but really in the whole scheme of things, that's not doing anything for you. So yeah, don't feel like it's necessary when you go on a cruise that you just completely, throw everything aside and say, well, I'm going to get my money's worth. I'm going to eat, it's 2 a.m. So I'm going to not get, a slice of pizza. I'm going to get 2 pizzas. I'm going to eat them both or something like that. I mean, you don't need to do that. And it's just you're going to end up paying for it later. Obviously, as Lawren has mentioned throughout this video, enjoy yourself, indulge in all the things that you want to indulge in, but be smart about it. You don't have to be gluttonous, right? And overdo things. So, one tip that I wanted to share with you, Lawren, I wanted to see what you think about it, because as a health teacher and PE teacher and stuff, this is something that I share with my students and my athletes is, especially with teenagers, and this can apply to adults as well. But I tell people and teens specifically is don't go on a diet, okay? What you want to do is, rather than saying, hey, I can't eat those cookies or I can't eat those chips or whatever else like that, instead add food to what you normally eat. So if you normally come home and there's a big bag of Lay's potato chips or whatever, before you allow yourself to get into those Lay's potato chips, don't say you can't eat them, because you can, but you have to promise yourself, okay, before I eat these Lay's potato chips, I'm going to eat an apple and an orange, or I'm going to eat, 3 celery stalks and an apple, and then I can have some chips. So the idea behind that obviously is to fill your body with so much good stuff that you won't crave as much of the bad stuff. And by doing that, you're going to get a lot less calories in your diet. And as a result, you're more likely to lose weight, but without restricting yourself or feel like you're punishing yourself, not allowing you to have all the things that you would like to eat. And that very much applies to a cruise ship, right? So, the water example that Lawren, you mentioned at the very beginning, absolutely 100% agree. And that can help so much, even with eating. If you drink a ton of water, it's going to fill up your stomach and you're not going to be as hungry to eat. So, what do you think about that, Lawren?
Yes, I love that tip. That's a great mindset to have. And that's actually why most of my list items are things you can add in order to bring the maximum enjoyment out of your vacation, and not a list of like, don't do this, a lot of restrictions of what not to eat or what not to do. I really believe that adding healthy habits into your lifestyle are the best way to achieve your maximum potential here. So thank you so much for inviting me on your channel, Brad. It's been a great experience, and I look forward to learning so many more cruising tips. I cannot wait to book the next one myself. It was a fantastic week last week, and look forward to hopefully being on a cruise with you again someday.
Thank you, Lawren. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for coming on the Coach Cruise channel and sharing all this wonderful information with the cruise team. And I know this is going to benefit it. If you've watched the video to this point, then it's obviously doing something for you and you're taking these tips to heart and taking notes. Also, remember, do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber, and the like button would be great if you're already a subscriber. And feel free to share these tips with any of your friends that enjoy cruising, and maybe it will help them. And remember, just to kind of recap everything, you know, I know Lawren shared 10 tips with you and we gave you a couple bonus tips there at the end. Just remember, you know, don't think you have to follow every single tip. If you followed half of these tips, it's going to be of more benefit to you than if you just threw caution to the wind and did whatever on the cruise, right? So a lot of these tips will benefit you in, you know, a lot of different ways, but particularly, you know, help you avoid having to, you know, really restrict calories for the next 6 weeks after your cruise because you just totally let everything go. Again, enjoy your cruise thoroughly, you know, drink and eat whatever you want, but be smart about it, right? And try to get those steps in, try to get that exercise in, and see your opportunities to when you can, you know, indulge, and then when you can be smart and balance it a little bit. You can still have an awesome time and not hate the scale as much when you get back, right? So that's all I have for you, cruise team. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed doing it and inviting a guest, and that was a lot of fun. And depending upon the reviews on this this video, I'd love to have Lawren back and we can get some more of those tips from her, because she had some wonderful ones. And I'm going to include a link that can get you in contact with Lawren if you would like to get some more direct tips from her, so she can share more of her wisdom with you and maybe help you, you know, start on that journey that she's been on. And remember, she's been on both sides of the coin, so she knows exactly what you're going through, and can help you no matter whether you're somebody that's super fit or somebody that desires to be super fit. She can give you some of the keys to unlocking that success. So until next time, cruise team, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, or the evening that you're watching this, I hope you're doing well, and we will talk to you later.
I just can't get away from a good time.